Derek seduced the investor's daughter for money. He caused my miscarriage, forced me to divorce, and blacklisted me in the industry, leaving me with nowhere to turn. 3 years later, I met Derek again at a singing competition. He was a judge, and I was just a contestant. When no one was around, he cornered me against a dimly lit wall. "Emily, come with me. I have money now," he said, pulling out the keys to a BMW from his pocket. I scoffed, flashing the large diamond ring on my finger, worth much more than his BMW. The freezing rain pattered on the trees outside, and the cold wind pierced through my coat, making me shiver. Today was my wedding anniversary with Derek. The movie he arranged for us had already started, but he hadn't arrived. As I scrolled through my phone, I saw a post from Ryan on social media. Another perfect day for the two of us, accompanied by a photo of their hands entwined, with the background being my home's fish tank. The ring on Derek's hand was blinding. My heart sank and I stumbled into the rain. I reached the door but couldn't fit the key into the lock. Overwhelmed with emotions, I threw the key heavily against the door. Creak, the door opened. "Emily, the movie isn't over yet, right?" Derek poked his head out, blocking the doorway, a mix of surprise and blame in his eyes. "Ryan said you being here affects his performance. Can you come back later?" His tone was filled with annoyance. This was my house, yet he found me a nuisance. "Then you leave." In tea, I stepped over him, feeling a warm flow from my lower body. Blood stained the ground. Ryan saw the blood and screamed in disgust. Derek quickly put down his chopsticks and held Ryan protectively. "Ryan, don't be afraid. Derek is here." After comforting Ryan, he took me to the hospital. On the way, I fainted from the pain. When I woke up, I felt pain in my lower body. I had miscarried again. I had always wanted a child, and now it was gone. "You are the murderer of your own child," I said, my eyes red with anger. Derek showed no remorse. "We were always going to divorce. Losing the child is better for you." His words pierced my heart like arrows. He said it so casually. He paused and continued, "Let's get a divorce." Despair consumed me. I had no more attachment to him. Yes, we should have divorced long ago. After being discharged, I moved out of that house and temporarily stayed in a hotel. As night fell, I felt too lonely in the small room. I went to a bustling hot pot restaurant on the street. There's nothing a hot pot can't solve. If there is, then add a bottle of wine. The couple at the next table fed each other, the boy full of affection, the girl lost in it. It reminded me of us. My nose tingled and I ordered another drink. As I drank, a crowd gathered at the restaurant's entrance. It was more crowded than our concerts. "Miss, aren't you going to join the fun? The hottest director is filming a new drama outside." "I don't like crowds, thanks." The owner looked at me for a while. I turned on my phone and played a song from our first album. I couldn't help but pick up my chopsticks and start tapping on the bottle. The lyrics flowed naturally. Even drunk, I sang perfectly. The owner handed me a guitar and led me to the performance area. He played the intro, and I sang each song. After a few songs, I sobered up. I looked up, and the restaurant was full of people. I stopped, but they remained immersed. I tried to leave quietly, but the owner pulled me back. Applause filled the room. The crowd shouted, "Phoenix Band, sing more." Our band was called Phoenix Band. Derek named it, saying I looked like a phoenix on stage, with all the birds willing to follow. Their enthusiasm moved me. I had nowhere else to go. Passion and loneliness can create excitement. I sang until closing time, signing autographs for fans until dawn. The crowd dispersed, and I sobered up completely. I walked outside. The film crew had to stop because my singing attracted too many people. They were still reshooting. I didn't expect my impromptu performance to cause such trouble. I approached them, bowing and apologizing. "It's okay. We enjoyed the music. You sang beautifully. We'll always support you. Hope to collaborate someday. I looked up and saw a man around, dressed in a Shanghai style, with a beret, vintage suit, and shiny black shoes. I smiled and nodded. The next day, the investor called me to the company. Ryan stood proudly beside the investor. Dad, make her divorce Derek. The investor waved Ryan away, leaving me and Derek alone. Emily, you're smart. Love can be without money, but marriage can't. Divorce means breaking the contract. You think I don't know? Without you, Derek is nothing. I won't let you go. I won't divorce. Your daughter will always be the other woman. The investor's words chilled the room. Fine, but you must leave all your creations. I won't give you a penny. You won't get any marital property. You'll leave with nothing. Derek joined the negotiation, showing no mercy. Impossible. I'll take all my unpublished songs and my money. Their tone was firm, and I stood my ground. I grabbed my bag and left. The next day, gossip news flooded my phone. Phoenix Band's lead singer cheats. Phoenix Band's lead singer caught with team member. True love, 10 years younger. The photos were of Derek and Ryan in bed. I had sent them out, pixelated. Not out of mercy, but to follow the law. Remembering the fans' love gave me the strength to fight back. Even if Derek and the band were gone, my talent wouldn't be buried. He was ruthless, but he didn't know I had photos of his affair. As I watched the online backlash, the investor contacted me. I smiled, thinking I could break the contract, but when we met, he handed me a lawsuit and a video of me singing in the hot pot restaurant. I was the defendant, accused of infringing on the entertainment company's song copyright. I looked at Derek, who used to defend me when I was wronged, but now he was the enemy. From now on, I could only rely on myself. I didn't sing any song that wasn't mine. Stop trying to scare me, I said. And then they showed me a video. Derek had used my account to post a video of me singing at the hot pot restaurant that night. Someone had tipped, and the money had already been withdrawn. All my lyrics and compositions are my own creations. There's no clause in our contract transferring copyright to you. I have the right to sing my own songs, and you have no grounds to sue me. I clenched my fists, never realizing I could speak so forcefully. Mr. Wang grinned, his greasy, bloated face looking like a hungover pig. He pulled out another document, a copyright transfer agreement. I'm not a child. I know I didn't sign any such document. I sneered as I took the paper from his hand, determined to expose his lies. But when I saw the signature on it, I froze. I remembered how Derek got excited 6 months ago, saying he wanted to etch my name in his memory and asked me to teach him to write romantic lines. I fell into the trap he set, teaching him to write my name stroke by stroke while nestled in his arms. Now, each stroke felt like a knife piercing my heart. Derek, how could you do this? Don't you have a conscience? I asked, my voice trembling with betrayal. Derek lifted his head, showing no remorse. Back then, we were so broke we couldn't even afford coffee. You wanted to maintain your high standards, so I had no choice but to do this, he said, justifying his actions as if a conqueror claiming his war was for world peace. Shameless. You didn't die of thirst drinking plain water, I retorted, throwing the document at his face in fury. When the band started, he cared too much about his image to take up side jobs. So, I worked part-time by day and wrote songs by night to make money. Now that he has latched onto wealthy people, I've become disposable. Years of genuine love fed to the dogs. If not for the dogs, at least to Emily, who could bark twice. Face reality, Emily. Just compromise for me, Derek said. If not for my upbringing, I would have spat in his face. The investor cleared his throat and said, Either I sue you for infringement, and you'd owe me at least $3 million, which would ruin you, or you clarify that you and Derek are already divorced. You're a shrewd businessman, but fine, Let's end the contract." "I'll leave with nothing," I agreed. On the day Derek and I divorced, we stood under the warm winter sun, reminiscent of our first meeting. The sunlight glinted off her hair. "Emily, I did love you. Do you know why I left you?" Derek said, lighting a cigarette and taking a puff. "Being with you made me feel incompetent." "Do you love Ryan?" I asked, the question that had been gnawing at me. Derek scoffed. "Emily, you're so naive. 30 years old and still don't understand that love requires money." With that, he turned away. I was indeed foolish. Ryan had approached me 6 months ago, offering me money to leave. Derek drove off in a Rolls-Royce that day, clad in Chanel, with the most extravagant Bulgari necklace around her neck. He opened a suitcase filled with money and said, "Take the money and leave, or I'll take everything from you." I left with nothing. At that moment, I wavered, partly because of the money, and partly because I had sensed Derek's love waning. But I chose to gamble on him, only to lose everything. 3 years later, at a singing competition, I met Derek again. He was a mentor. I was a contestant. After our contract ended, they broke their promises, teaming up with other entertainment companies to blacklist me, which led to severe depression. I had only recently recovered. After the first round, when no one was around, Derek cornered me against a dimly lit wall. "Emily, come back to me. I have money now," he said, pulling out a BMW key from his pocket. I scoffed, showing off the diamond ring on my ring finger, worth more than his BMW. He kissed my neck passionately, but I was no longer tempted. I pushed him away, slapping him hard. He licked his cheek where I had struck him and sneered, "Fake, right? You haven't worked in years. Where did you get the money?" "My husband bought it for me," I said, walking away gracefully. He stood there, stunned. The next day, the song I performed went viral on all major music platforms. My personal information was dug up by netizens, revealing that I was the former lead singer of Phoenix Band and Derek's ex-wife. The show seized the opportunity for more publicity. During the next recording, the topic was brought up again. For the second round, I sang a ballad. By the end of the song, the audience was moved to tears. Derek, with reddened eyes, stared at me, his gaze filled with an emotion that could swallow me whole. "Mr. Derek, hey, Mr. Derek," the host called out several times before he snapped out of it. "Mr. Derek is staring at Emily. Be careful. Fans might get jealous," the host teased. "Emily is joining my team, don't you try to steal her," another mentor joked. Apologies, everyone. This song moved me deeply. If I were to score it on a scale of 10, I'd give it an 11. "The extra point is for her growth," Derek said. The audience burst into cheers, but I only felt his hypocrisy. This was my usual level of performance, especially considering I had only recently returned to music after 6 months. I might not even be as good as I once was. But he would never acknowledge my past excellence. After all, his rise to fame was built on the songs and lyrics I left behind. "I heard you were once a team and even a couple. Can I ask, Emily, does this song have anything to do with Mr. Derek?" The host's question was predictable. "It does," I said. With those 2 words, the audience stood up, shouting for us to reunite. They understood the bitterness of the song, but they couldn't truly empathize. After being ruthlessly expelled by Derek, I hardly left the house for 6 months. I hadn't seen any relatives or friends, trapped in memories and the shadow of Derek. During that time, I wrote many songs, and this was one of them. But what I wrote about was the Derek of the past. He was already dead to me. "I know you loved me back then, sincerely. So even after leaving you, I still couldn't forget your care." I sang those lines with deep emotion. Derek was moved to tears. The host quickly directed the camera to Derek, capturing her heartfelt sobs. Then the host signaled to switch the camera to me, and I squeezed out 2 tears. Otherwise, uninformed viewers would surely scold me for not cherishing the moment. A perfectly good show was turned into a special on rekindling old flames between Derek and me. "Emily, do you have a boyfriend now?" the host asked. "Yes." "And does Mr. Derek have a girlfriend?" "No." "For years I've been waiting for someone I didn't cherish properly," Derek said. Our answers left the audience gasping. I was so angry I wanted to tear into her right there. Just as I was struggling with how to respond, a familiar voice came through my earpiece. "Honey, you said you didn't have one. I'm not jealous." I smiled slightly, picked up the microphone, and added, "A woman in her 30s values her pride. Who would admit to not having a boyfriend in front of an ex?" After I finished, Derek excitedly came on stage to hug me. I thought to myself, she's really good at acting. Her tears soaked my shoulder. All right, time is limited. We need to continue the competition. Only singers who make it to the finals get to choose a mentor. Good luck, Emily. We look forward to your story with Mr. Derek. The host finally moved on from the topic, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Acting is exhausting, especially when performing a heartfelt scene with someone you despise. As soon as the show ended, I saw Derek walking toward me. I quickly blended into the crowd. "Derek!" Emily's voice called from behind. I was so scared I didn't even change out of my costume and ran, carrying my dress, to my agent's car. "Lily, let's go." "Just looking at her makes me want to puke," I said as I got in the car, glancing back at the pursuing Derek. It felt as thrilling as escaping zombies. I suggested stepping on the gas to get away. Lily didn't reverse, but she did floor it, leaving Derek in a cloud of exhaust. I laughed so hard I doubled over. "Michael secretly came to see you today. He knows you want to be recognized for your talent again, so he left to avoid suspicion," Lily said. "I know. He sent me messages through my earpiece," I replied. Lily hesitated but couldn't hold back. "The competition will be filmed for at least 3 months. Michael is the director, and there are always beautiful women around him. Aren't you worried?" "If he liked beautiful women, he wouldn't be with me," I said, though my heart was honest. I immediately called Michael. He answered, and we chatted sweetly. He gave me detailed instructions on how to take care of myself and how to adjust my state for the upcoming recordings. Michael is his professional title. He said he admired me but treated me like a child. After hanging up, I went to freshen up. There was a knock at the door. "Who is it?" I asked. There was no response for a long time. Just then my phone rang with an unknown number. "Emily, open the door. I miss you," Derek's voice said. "Get lost," I said and hung up. The knocking continued, but I ignored it. It was impressive he found my temporary residence to continue disgusting me. He had orchestrated my banishment, fearing my solo career would outshine his, revealing his incompetence. "Emily, do you remember our first time? We had agreed to sleep together, but you shyly closed the door after entering, just like now, one inside, one outside," she said. Her words made my eyes well up. I couldn't help but sit down, leaning against the door, listening to him recall those times. "My lips kissed your face. My hands caressed every inch of your skin. You moaned and wrapped your arms around my neck, more indulgent than I was," she choked up. "Emily, open the door. Let's start over, okay?" His words were too heartfelt, making me want to hug her. "You've achieved great things in the years since you left. I can take care of you now." "I searched everywhere but couldn't find you," he continued. Of course he couldn't find me. I was in a mental hospital because of his betrayal and banishment. I lost my child and my beloved career. Over the years, he sang songs I had written but never released. Thinking of this, I kicked the door hard and called the property management. I made a call to have them come and clean up the trash at my door. When I returned to the show, Derek looked disheveled, like he hadn't slept all night. When he saw me, it was like he was possessed. Ignoring the staff around us, he hugged me tightly. "Emily, you promised me that you would belong only to me for your entire life." Hearing this, I could only laugh. He had said the same thing to Ryan. It was a summer's noon, and I was in the recording studio. Realizing I hadn't had lunch, I ordered takeout for the feast. But when the food arrived, no one answered the phone. Worried something might have happened to her, I rushed home. When I got there, the door was ajar. Through the crack, I saw clothes scattered on the floor, including a sexy bra. I walked towards the bedroom and heard her say to Ryan, "Promise me, you will belong only to me for your entire life." Then the bed creaked. His heavy breaths and Ryan's soft moans filled my ears. My world collapsed. The photo of the bed exposed to the media was taken by me at that moment, suppressing my disgust. "Derek, can we start over? I won't touch another woman again," Derek pleaded, but I remained unmoved. He knelt down in front of everyone, which moved the onlookers to tears. Only I was lost in unpleasant memories. I squatted down and hugged him. "You finally forgive me," he cried with excitement. "Remember, I still hate you. You wasted my energy. Don't force me to reveal the truth from back then." "Stay away from me," I whispered in his ear, then stood up and pushed him away. "Emily, you've changed. If you're afraid being with me will affect your competition, I'll quit the show, as long as you come back to me," Derek said emotionally, then turned and left. "Derek is so sentimental," the onlookers murmured. "Emily's heart is so cruel." Because of Derek's withdrawal, the show was temporarily suspended. Watching his back, I asked myself, was he sincere? It only took me a second to answer. With his fame, he wouldn't attract excellent contestants. Even if he did, he couldn't train a champion. It was all his self-directed drama to create buzz. My well-prepared efforts were ruined by him. The production team sent me a lawsuit, and the internet was full of criticism against me. All this reminded me of the time when I was blacklisted by them. The year of our divorce, Derek told the media I was a spent force, increasingly irritable, and even self-harmed to falsely accuse me of domestic violence. I was cyberbullied so badly that I was bruised all over. Reporters chased me for photos, brainless fans hit and scolded me, and even the hotel I stayed in was cyberbullied. In the end, I was so afraid my parents would worry that I couldn't go home and developed severe depression. I stayed in a psychiatric hospital for over a year. If Michael hadn't found me and pulled me out of the abyss, I would have fallen off the cliff. There was a knock on the door. My heart raced. Was it brainless fans again? I cautiously looked through the peephole. Outside stood someone in standard New Yorker attire. I opened the door and fell into his arms like a wronged child meeting a parent. "Why won't you let me help you?" Michael said, his voice tinged with heartache and a bit of sadness. Michael was Michael's full name. "I just want to prove myself," I said. "Can I step in now?" "Yes." I snuggled into Michael's arms like a compliant cat, tears welling up. After I was blacklisted, he was the first to find me. He said the aura I exuded while lost in music at the Hot Pot restaurant left a lasting impression on him. I doubted his sincerity, but in the past 3 years, his kindness towards me went beyond just eating, drinking coffee, and sleeping. He helped me rebuild, broadened my horizons, and planned my future. Even though he didn't thin, he knew I was attached to the past, not the present. After the show was recorded, Michael handed me a copyright certificate and a recording. He had bought back all my music copyrights from the past. These songs were like my lost children. This gesture was far more touching than if he had given me a car or a villa. The recording made me realize what Derek was planning. Michael's eyes were fierce as I said with reddened eyes, "Don't dirty your hands." I made my mark on this show with my own strength and won the championship. Derek didn't have the skills to be a mentor. He only got the position by sleeping with wealthy women to gather funds. Seeing my widespread success, he wanted to use me again. The recording was made when Michael was purchasing the copyrights and Derek was discussing another deal. He tried to sell intimate photos of us to Michael. Hurting me once wasn't enough. He wanted to use me for show publicity again, especially after his scandal. He wasn't content and wanted to squeeze out my last bit of value. I locked myself in my room, listening to my old songs and that recording. One song sang of past sweetness, while the recording pulled me back to reality. The promises of lifelong protection now seemed so ironic. In my mind, I held another funeral for him. Encouraged by Michael, I reported the crime as a victim. I wasn't ashamed of my past love. It was disgraceful that he used our old relationship to spread obscene photos. Within days, the headlines were all about his detention, but no one knew the reason. One day, while I was recording music in the studio, Lily rushed in and dragged me out, saying, "Hurry, hurry! Goodness, who did you get involved with when you were young?" Confused, I followed her out of the studio and saw a woman holding a sign surrounded by reporters. It was Ryan. The sign read, "Emily, please leave my husband alone." I knew avoiding the issue wouldn't solve anything, so I walked towards them. Ryan, holding a stack of forgiveness papers, was trying to force me to sign. "Do you want Michael to handle this?" Emily's brother-in-law whispered in my ear. "I can handle it myself," I replied firmly. Even with support, the next step in life is always one we must take ourselves. "Ryan, get up and have some water," I said with a forced smile. Lily managed the reporters. Lily, a robust woman, could easily shield the two of us with her outstretched arms. Supporting Ryan, I dug my nails into her flesh. "You've changed over the years, and so have I whispered menacingly. He was taken aback, not expecting the once gentle girl to exude such a powerful aura. "I'm pregnant too. Please leave us alone," she pleaded, devoid of her former pride. Seeing her slightly swollen belly only fueled my anger. I had been pregnant twice. Derek's push had caused my second miscarriage. The first time, I discovered his infidelity. Ryan, knowing this, often stayed at my house. For the sake of the child, I learned to endure, but Ryan was ruthless, drugging my food and causing a miscarriage. When I reported it, Derek supported Ryan, claiming I was delusional after the miscarriage. Remembering this, I agreed to his terms without hesitation and signed the forgiveness papers. In front of the reporters, Ryan admitted to being Derek's current wife and apologized for past issues. I even helped her wipe off the excess makeup, saying, "Pregnant women shouldn't wear such heavy makeup. It's bad for the baby." Seeing his joyful expression, I coldly smirked inside. Derek's deception was fully revealed. His supposed wait for Emily was a lie, as he was already married. The internet was filled with curses against him. After Derek was released from jail, I initially planned to have a meal with him but couldn't stand his hypocrisy. Instead, I sent him the suit he had always wanted. This gift ensured he would remember me. Now, with a slew of negative news surrounding him and Ryan's father facing bankruptcy, my career was thriving. Occasionally, I sent him a message, like a lifeline in the vast sea. I could imagine his desperate reaction and Ryan's hysterical outbursts. At the annual Best Singer award ceremony, I received both the Best Singer and Best Composer awards. Derek attended the event but couldn't get in and had to wait outside. After the ceremony, I walked out in a glamorous gown and saw him crouched in a corner wearing the ill-fitting suit I had sent him. His beer belly was even more prominent. He looked at me as if seeing me for the first time, a look full of stars, as if from another lifetime. He was no longer the young boy, and I was no longer the naive girl. Kneeling with a bouquet of roses, he took out our old wedding ring, repeating the sweet words and singing the songs he once wrote for me. Tears fell down my cheeks, bitter and painful. I felt no joy from my plan's success, only an urge to flee. This was the man I once loved with all my heart, now tarnishing my youth. I called Ryan. The farce began when they no longer needed me to be the villain. "Congratulations, you've become the old me," I said, hanging up the phone. Everyone else and the reporters were cleared out, leaving only Derek in the hall. I knew this was Michael's doing, giving me time to think. I was just waiting for Ryan to come and watch the show. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor, watching the traffic, curious about what would happen next. Suddenly, a Rolls-Royce sped off the road, heading straight for us. The license plate looked familiar. Bang! A loud crash was followed by the staff's exclamations. I quickly went downstairs. The scene before me made me collapse to the ground. The car lights were shattered, the front end crushed. Ryan lay on the airbag, bleeding from his nose and mouth. Derek's leg was pinned, blood and flesh mangled under the front tire. Michael hurried to my side, covering my eyes and holding me in his arms as he called for an ambulance. I was trembling all over. Ryan's recklessness was beyond my expectations. Had I made a mistake? "Whether a cat steals fish has nothing to do with how much fish you put out," Michael said, holding me tightly, trying to comfort me with all his love. Afterward, I saw a psychologist for a month and kept an eye on the hospital situation. Ryan had a miscarriage, but he was fine. The doctor said the child was going to be lost anyway. He couldn't accept Derek's infidelity, often drinking, smoking, and even starting to use drugs. He kept the child to tie Derek down. Derek lost a leg and, unable to live normally, refused to divorce Ryan. After being discharged, Derek wrote a 10,000-word self-reflection, which was shared by major media outlets. He revealed the truth from years ago, admitting I was better than him. I disliked the last sentence of his reflection. "If leaving me makes you happier, I'll let you go." My happiness was never his to grant. His clinging to Ryan confirmed that his self-reflection wasn't out of conscience, but because he knew my fiancé was Michael. Michael proposed to me. Michael said, "I won't clip your wings out of fear you'll surpass me. I know you're a phoenix, not content to be a caged bird." Michael said, "Love is not possession but fulfillment." Michael said, "To have one heart, never to part." On February 14th, a sunny day, at Victoria Manor in Shanghai, I walked towards a slightly nervous Michael in a white wedding dress, bathed in winter sunlight. Among the guests were not only our parents but also top celebrities and even political figures. Michael's nervousness and vast connections were masked by his elegance. Holding his slightly sweaty hand, we had our wedding. As night fell and the guests left, Michael had his first taste of the master's wine. She pounced on me, her eyes wild and passionate. "What a night to meet such a good man," she whispered, gently biting my earlobe and slowly removing my clothes. That's the end of today's story. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, leave a comment. See you in the next video.